A wise old professor walked into his classroom one morning. He didn't carry any books or notes. Instead, he placed a large, empty glass jar on the table in front of him. The students watched, curious about what he was going to do. Without saying a word, he reached under the table and pulled out a pile of big, heavy rocks. He carefully placed them into the jar, one by one, until no more could fit inside. The rocks filled the jar right up to the very top, leaving no visible space between them. It was a simple action, yet it held the entire class in a silent, captivated state. Once the last rock was settled, the professor looked up at his students. He scanned their faces, each one filled with a quiet sense of wonder. Then he asked a simple question: "Is this jar full?" The students looked at the jar, which was clearly packed with rocks. They all nodded and murmured in agreement. Yes, one brave student called out from the back, "The jar is definitely full." The professor just smiled a knowing smile, as if he was holding on to a secret that they were all about to discover. He was about to show them that things are not always as they seem at first glance. The professor then reached under the table again. This time, he brought out a bucket filled with small pebbles. He poured the pebbles into the jar, shaking it gently. The small stones rattled down, filling the empty spaces between the big rocks. They slid into nooks and crannies that the students hadn't even noticed before. The pebbles settled all around the larger rocks, making the jar look even more packed than it was before. The professor continued to pour and shake until the pebbles reached the brim of the jar, creating a new, more complex layer within the container. Again, the professor turned to his class, his eyes twinkling with a sense of purpose. "Now," he asked with a slight grin, "is the jar full?" The students were a little more hesitant this time. They had been so sure just a moment ago. Now they were beginning to understand that there was more to this lesson than just filling a jar. A few students cautiously said, "Probably not." They were catching on to his game, realizing that the experiment was designed to challenge their perception of what it means for something to be truly full. The professor nodded, pleased that they were starting to think more deeply. The professor's demonstration was not over yet. For the third time, he reached beneath the table and pulled out a container, this one filled with fine golden sand. He began to pour the sand into the jar. It flowed like liquid, a tiny waterfall cascading over the rocks and pebbles. The grains of sand were so small they found their way into every remaining crack and crevice, filling the tiniest gaps that the pebbles had missed. The students watched in amazement as the sand disappeared into the jar, seemingly swallowed by the contents already inside. The jar, which had looked full twice before, was now accepting even more. He poured until the sand was level with the top of the jar. Then he gave it one final, gentle shake to make sure it was completely settled. The surface was now smooth, a blanket of sand covering the hidden layers of rocks and pebbles beneath. The professor looked at his students, who were now completely silent, their full attention on him and the jar. He asked his question for a third time, but with a different tone, one that invited deeper reflection. "And now," he said, "is the jar full?" This time, no one dared to answer. They knew a trick was coming. They simply waited for him to reveal the final step. The professor smiled warmly at their silence. He understood their hesitation. He then reached for a pitcher of water that had been sitting on the corner of his desk the whole time. He began to pour the water slowly and carefully into the jar. The sand, which had seemed to fill every last space, absorbed the water. The liquid seeped down, saturating the sand, wetting the pebbles, and coating the large rocks at the bottom. He poured until the water level rose to the very brim of the jar, finally making it impossible to add anything else. The jar was now, without a doubt, completely and utterly full. He set the pitcher down and finally broke the silence, ready to explain the meaning behind his strange experiment. "This jar," he began, his voice calm and clear, "represents your life." The students leaned forward, ready to hear the wisdom he was about to share. The simple objects on the table, the rocks, the pebbles, the sand, and the water, were not just random items. Each one was a symbol for the different parts of their lives. the things that fill their days, their years, and their entire existence. The lesson was about to come to life in a way they would never forget. "So, what do these things represent?" the professor asked, pointing to the full jar. "The big rocks are the most important things in your life. They are your family, your health, your deep relationships with friends, and your most important dreams and passions. These are the things that, if everything else was lost, and only they remained, your life would still feel full and meaningful. They are the foundation of a happy and fulfilled existence. They are the core of who you are and what you value most deeply. Without them, your life would feel empty, no matter what else you tried to fill it with." He then gestured toward the pebbles that had filled the spaces around the rocks. "The pebbles," he continued, "are the other important things that add value to your life. This could be your job or your career, your house, your car, or your hobbies. These things matter, of course. They provide security, comfort, and enjoyment. They give structure to your days and help you grow. However, they are not as fundamental as the big rocks. They are important, but they are not the things that define your ultimate happiness or give your life its deepest meaning. They are secondary priorities that should fit around your primary ones." Next, the professor pointed to the fine layer of sand that had settled into the smallest gaps. "The sand," he explained, "is all the small stuff. It's the little, often trivial things that can easily fill up your day. This includes things like running errands, checking social media, watching TV, or worrying about minor problems. It's the daily busyness that can consume your time and energy if you let it. While some of these activities are necessary or enjoyable in small doses, they should never take the place of the more important things. The sand is just filler. It's not the substance of a well-lived life." Finally, he spoke about the water that had saturated everything. And the water. The water represents the small moments of joy, connection and peace that can be found even when your life feels completely full. It's sharing a laugh with a friend, enjoying a quiet cup of coffee in the morning, or appreciating a beautiful sunset. It reminds us that no matter how busy or scheduled our lives become, there is always room for a little bit of happiness and grace. It's about finding joy in the journey, not just waiting for the big moments. These small joys enrich the entire experience of life. The professor then posed a critical question to the class. "What would have happened if I had put the sand or the pebbles in first?" he asked. The students immediately understood. "There would have been no room for the big rocks," someone answered. The professor nodded in agreement. "Exactly," he said. "And the same is true for your life. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, the sand and the pebbles, you will never have room for the things that are truly important to you. You'll fill your life with busyness, but you will miss out on what truly matters. This is the central lesson of the jar of life. You must identify your big rocks and make them your priority. Take time to think about what is most important to you. Is it spending quality time with your family? Is it taking care of your physical and mental health? Is it pursuing a lifelong dream? Or nurturing your most cherished relationships? These are your big rocks, and you must put them into your jar first. Schedule them into your life with intention, just as you would schedule an important meeting. Don't let them be an afterthought that you'll get to someday. Once your big rocks are in place, you will find that the other things, the pebbles, will naturally find their place around them. Your work, your hobbies, and your other responsibilities can fit into the spaces you have left. You will also see that there is still plenty of room for the sand, the small daily tasks that need to get done. The key is to address your priorities in the correct order. When you focus on what matters most, the less important things don't overwhelm you. Instead, they fall into place around a life that is already full of meaning and purpose. So, take a moment today to think about your own jar of life. What are your big rocks? Are you giving them the time and attention they deserve? Remember to put them in first. Make space for your health, your family, your passions, and your dreams. Then, let the rest of life fill in the gaps. And don't forget to pour in a little water along the way. Find those moments of joy and gratitude. True happiness comes not from being busy, but from building a life that is balanced, meaningful, and full of the things that you value most.